Where are you listening from tonight, my friend? Maybe you're lying down already, letting the quiet settle into your bones. If slow storytelling brings you comfort, I'd love to see you again sometime. But for now, let's set aside the noise of the day of the texts, the lights, the waiting. Let it all slip into the sea behind us. Now, the horizon is wide, and the ship sways gently, cradling you like a heavy breath. You wake up in darkness. Not the kind that hums with electricity or glows with distant traffic. This darkness is full, silent, and endless. You remember falling asleep exactly? Maybe it was when the lanterns went out. Maybe it was in the middle of a wave's rhythm, counting creaks in the planks above your head. You open your eyes and they sting with salt. Everything smells like damp wood, unwashed fabric, and the faintest whiff of last night's supper, something boiled too long or not at all. It's hard to tell. A low thud echoes nearby, then a groan, then the shuffle of someone else stirring. Dozens of bodies sway in hammocks all around you, suspended like cocoons from the ceiling beams. The ropes creak softly, not from any wind, but from the restless turning of men who never quite sleep through the night. The air is thick and unmoving. A rat darts along a beam and disappears into the shadows. You sit up slowly, careful not to bump your neighbor's hammock. Your head nearly touches the ceiling. It's just a breath above you. You swing your legs over the side, feet landing in a puddle of yesterday's water. The boards are slimy, and you flinch instinctively, though you know better than to act surprised. Someone always spills something, or leaks something, or forgets to tie a bucket down. The ship never stops moving, and neither does the mess. Above you, there's a muffled knock, then a voice flat, bored and barely loud enough to carry through the hatch. All hands up, you know what it means. Time to begin again. Climbing out of the hold feels like crawling through the belly of some great wooden beast. You pass rows of barrels lashed to the walls, coils of rope, and a stack of sea chests with initials carved deep into the lids, some old, some new, some never opened again. The ladder creaks as you pull yourself up, one damp rung at a time. Your shoulders ache, your legs are heavy, but above there's light. A pale grayish glow that feels like morning, even if the sun hasn't shown itself. When you reach the main deck, your breath catches. Not from the beauty, though there's that too, but from the wind, sharp and sudden, slicing through your worn linen shirt. It's colder than it should be. You look around, and the sky is blank. Just clouds smeared across the horizon like smoke on paper. The ocean stretches out in every direction, flat and endless. The same cold blue-gray as the sky. There's no land, not even a shadow of it, only water. The deck under your feet is slick with dew and salt. You walk barefoot here like most of the others. Shoes wear out fast, and wet leather rubs until the blisters bleed. Better to go without. Press your toes into the wood, trying to keep balance as the ship rocks gently to port. Somewhere below, you hear the distant rhythm of the bilge pump. Someone's already started the day's work. You make your way toward the rail and rest your hands on the edge, leaning out just a little. The wood is cold, crusted with salt. Far below, the water rushes past, not fast, but constant. It sounds like tearing paper mixed with breath. You blink slowly. The wind dries your eyes too quickly, and you rub them with the back of your sleeve. Another sailor stands beside you, coughing quietly into his hand. You don't know his name? He came aboard in Lisbon? Or maybe before? Doesn't matter much. You nod to him and he nods back, neither of you speaking. There's nothing to say this early. You both know the drill. A bell rings near the helm to short clangs. Then a call rations. You follow the others in a slow shuffle toward the galley. There's no line, just a loose understanding of order. One by one, you're handed a hunk of ship's biscuit around, a card disc that cracks like bone when bitter nand, a cup of small beer, sour and warm. You chew slowly, checking each bite for weevils. They live in the bread, while sailors eat them for the protein. You knock yours against the rail first, and a few tiny black shapes fall out. Breakfast is ready. You lean back on a coil of rope and eat in silence, staring into the fog where the sun should be. The beer burns a little going down. It's not strong just enough to kill the worst of the bacteria, but it still turns your stomach this early. You haven't had fresh water in weeks. No one has. It's in barrels below, but the taste is long since gone. Sometimes it turns green, sometimes it rides. But this is better than nothing. You hear someone retch nearby. One of the younger boys, still not used to the motion, he heaves over the side, pale and shaking. The rest of you pretend not to notice. It happens every day. A few gulls call overhead, circling lazily. You watch them for a moment, wondering how far they've flown from shore. They must know something you don't. Maybe land is close. Or maybe not. You gave up guessing a long time ago. As the sky lightens, duties begin. Someone's already swabbing the deck with seawater and sand, scrubbing hard with a knotted rope. You'll have your turn soon. The work never changes. Swab, coil, scrub, mend. Climb the rigging. Tie the sails. Patch a net. Scrub the hold. Scrape barnacles off the hull. Sleep, wake, repeat. A man passes with a mop, nodding politely as he steps around you. His face is weathered, half-burnt by sun and wind. His hands are cracked and blackened from tar. You nod back. No one talks much this early. Voices come later, with the heat. You run your tongue along your teeth and taste salt. There's a sore on your gum that won't heal. Press it with your finger, then wince. Best to ignore it. The captain hasn't come out yet. He rarely does before mid-morning. But his second mate is on the quarterdeck already, pacing like a wolf, watching everything. His coat flaps in the wind, stiff with salt. He doesn't shout, he doesn't have to. One look from him is enough to send 3 men scurrying. You glance toward the horizon again. Still nothing. No sails. It's no land. Just the low hum of waves, the creak of timber, and the faint slap of a loose rope somewhere near the mast. And so the day begins. Quietly, slowly, just like the one before it. And the one before that. The sea never sleeps. The rations are the same as yesterday, and the day before that. They arrive in a greasy cloth bundle, handed down without ceremony, without a word. You cradle it in your hands like it might surprise you, even though it never does. There's the biscuit, thick, pale, round as your palm, with the density of stone and the texture of an old drawer handle. It's chipped at one edge. You wonder, absently, whether that happened in the barrel or during loading weeks ago. You bring it up to your nose. It smells like flour, mold, and dust. Barely like food at all. Still, it's food. You press your thumb against the side and it doesn't give. The surface is hard as tile. You've been warned not to bite straight into. Many men have cracked teeth that way, left to rot without help. So you do what the old ones do. You break it, carefully, with both hands, over your knee. A flurry of powder falls into your lap, and inside the biscuit's heart something wriggles. Not a lot. It's just enough to catch the eye. You frown, pick out the dark specks, flick them over the side, and move on. The beer comes next. It's lukewarm already, sloshing in a dented tin cup. You swish it once to mix the sediment and take a small sip. It's sour, almost fizzy, and has that strange aftertaste that reminds you of old barrels, something woody and damp, like a basement. It's not strong enough to lift your spirits, but just bitter enough to keep your mouth from going dry. This is small beer, not brewed to enjoy, just to hydrate. You drink it in short gulps, while the others settle around the deck, each man with his own bundle, chewing quietly, staring at the sea or at nothing at all. Someone mutters a half-joke about the worms being extra today. A few men chuckle, low and breathless. Laughter isn't loud out here. It's more like a shared exhale, a kind of unspoken agreement that you all still exist, still occupy space, still make noise. The biscuit crunches beneath your teeth like gravel. You chew slowly, tilting your head to avoid a rotten spot on one molar. The buyer cuts the dryness, just barely. Try not to think about it. Swallow, chew again. Don't let your stomach remember how food should taste. To your left, a boy maybe 15 winters old eats with both hands. He's quick, anxious, stuffing pieces into his mouth like someone might take them. His eyes dart around between bites like he's still unsure if he belongs here. Maybe he doesn't. You nod once to him, and he stops chewing just long enough to nod back, crumbs clinging to his lip. He's one of the new ones. You can always tell by how fast they eat. The ones who've been here longer, like you, drag it out, make the moment stretch. It's not hunger you're avoiding. It's the hour after when the work begins again. The wind has softened now. The sails above hang in long arcs, heavy with moisture. Somewhere near the bow, a rope groans against its pulley. The ship sways gently beneath your feet, and the water below reflects the gray above so perfectly that it's hard to tell where sky ends An ocean begins. All the world feels like one single color, like a painting faded by candle smoke. Someone near the forecastle starts humming, a slow, low tune without words. A working song, maybe, or something from home. It carries on the wind for a moment, then vanishes. No one joins in. It's not time for singing. It's just breakfast, or something like it. You take another bite. This piece is softer slightly. Your tongue brushes against a smooth patch and finds salt, faint and stale but familiar. You remember someone once saying these biscuits could last 5 years in a barrel. You believe it. Maybe they never really go bad. Maybe they never really go good either. You look at the bottom of your biscuit. There's a black mark. Burnt. It's hard to say. You pick at it with your fingernail, then shrugged and eat around it. The beer is nearly gone. You swirl the last mouthful, watch the cloudy sediment spin in the tin, and toss it back. It tastes like time, like the edge of something old. There's movement by the cook station. The cook himself is barely more than a shadow behind a curtain of steam. He doesn't speak much, just lifts ladles, measures out portions, and stirs the same stew that's been cooking for 2 days. Maybe 3. At this distance, it's impossible to tell what's in it. Fish bones, salt pork, something gray, floating in grease. You're grateful not to eat it right now. That comes later. You hear someone spitting behind you, coughing something thick into the sea. It's a wet, rattling sound that no one looks toward. The man coughs again, wipes his mouth, and leans on the rail. There's always one. Maybe more than one. The sick ones blend in until they don't. Then suddenly they're gone. It's overboard, wrapped in sailcloth. Or left behind at the next port, if you're lucky enough to stop. Your biscuit is nearly finished. You suck on the last corner for a while, just to soften it. The taste is like chalk and seawater. Your teeth ache, but you chew through it. It's better than nothing. It's what there is. Nearby, someone jokes that the biscuits used to be round, but have been passed around the ship so many times they've turned oval. Someone else calls them worm pies. The boy laughs again, nervously, smile without showing teeth. There was a time, you remember, when bread was warm, soft, when it came with butter or salt or a smear of something sweet. That time feels far away now. It might have been your last week ashore, or the year before. Memory bends out here, stretches and folds in strange ways. The wind picks up slightly. Your cup rattles on the deck beside you. Hey, someone calls out from the rigging something about the sails. It doesn't matter. You brush the crumbs from your shirt, stand slowly, and stretch your back until it pops. Then you gather the cloth your breakfast came in and hand it back to the cook's mate, who nods without looking. Your stomach doesn't feel full, exactly, but it doesn't feel empty either. Just settled, just quiet, and that's the goal. You don't have to be told what comes next. It's the same every morning, at least when there isn't a storm or a torn sail or some officer in a new kind of mood. The bell has rung, the biscuit is settled. Now the scrubbing begins. You walk slowly across the slick deck, mindful not to slip, though your feet know every groove of these planks by now. The boards are worn smooth in some places, splintered in others. You trace them with your soles as you move, like following an old road with your body. The buckets are already out, filled to the brim with seawater drawn up in the hour before light. Beside them, someone's laid coils of rope, knotted at intervals like overgrown brushes. A pile of sand waits nearby in a damp sack course, and pale, like crushed shells. You take your place in the line, grabbing one of the ropes with a practiced motion, not thinking much. The bristles of hemp scrape your palm, you bend at the waist, soak the brush in salt water, and start scrubbing. It's not gentle work. Push the sand into the grooves between the boards with the knotted rope, your muscles groaning with each stroke. You move in slow arcs, back and forth, leaning into the motion, letting the rhythm pull you along. Salt stings the raw skin at your knuckles. The rope squeals as it drags across the wood, but it's oddly soothing in its way, predictable, quiet. There's no shouting, no surprise, just sand and water and repetition. You glance up now and then to check your section. It stretches across the middeck, near the galley, but clear of the helm. Not a glamorous spot, but not the worst either. At least you re-knot near the latrinos. Men have to hold their breath more than they work. You count your strokes, then start again. 1, 2, 3. Drag, turn, Dip the rope again. The water's surface is already cloudy with dirt. Someone a few feet away lets out a quiet sigh and rubs his back. Another man mutters a prayer under his breath, words you can't make out. Across the ship, a group of younger hands are still getting the hang of it, their strokes uneven, their rhythm off. An older sailor swats one on the shoulder, then shows him again, smoother, more controlled. Don't waste the water. Don't scrape too hard. Don't work too fast. It's not about finishing. It's about doing it right, and doing it again tomorrow. The sun starts to break through the clouds overhead, casting pale streaks across the deck. The damp wood shines for a moment before drying again. You move with the light, working your way across the planks as it slides toward the stern. Every so often you pause to stretch your shoulders, roll your wrists, look out to sea. But there's still nothing there. No birds, no sails. Just water that shifts color with the light gray to green to steel blue, then back again. You return to your work. The sand is starting to thin now. You dip your rope into the bucket again, swirl it to catch more grit, and drag it over a stubborn stain. Something sticky. Tar. Blood. Neither would be surprising. You scrape until it fades. No one asks where it came from. Best not to. Above you, the sails snap once, catching a new gust. The whole ship shifts slightly under your feet, like a sigh. You adjust your stance. Scrub again. Your hands are beginning to ache now, but it's not sharp, just tired. The kind of ache that hums along your bones like an old lullaby. There's a rhythm to this life, whether you like it or not. Each day divided not by hours, but by tasks. Morning means scrubbing, midday means maintenance. Afternoon brings inspection. Evening holds whatever's left. Sleep, if you're lucky. But most nights it's only half sleep. You rock in your hammock and dream of things that aren't real any. More green fields, dry socks, the smell of bread baking. Then you wake and reach for your bucket. A few of the men are singing now. Nothing cheerful. Just a dragging chant, matching the motion of their brushes. The lyrics change daily, sometimes nonsense, sometimes memories. One man hums a line about Bristol, another finishes it with a joke. You smile faintly and keep scrubbing. By now, the bucket is nearly empty. You toss the last of it across the deck, letting the water find its own path between the seams. The boards glisten in the light, cleaner than before. Not clean, exactly, just less filthy. That's as much as you can hope for. You stretch once more, straighten your back with a crack, and return the brush to its coil. The second mate walks by, silent as always, eyes scanning each plank. He doesn't say anything, which means he approves, or at least he's not angry. That's enough. You avoid his gaze and step aside, letting him pass. He smells of pipe smoke and oil. His coat is pressed, the brass buttons shining. You haven't touched brass in weeks. Next to you, someone tosses his bucket back into the stack, the handle clattering. He mutters something about the last time they skipped swabbing, how the captain nearly doubled the duties after 2 men got sick. You nod, remembering the stench, the flies. The surgeon wringing his hands. It's better this way, even if your fingers bleed. As you sit back down on the coil of rope from earlier, you feel the ache settle deeper into your arms. You glance down at your palms, red. Calloused, one with a small split near the thumb. The salt water will sting later. Maybe it already does, and you're just too used to it. You rest there for a while, eyes half closed. The sea is calm. The ship creaks gently. The morning wind wraps around you like a damp sheet. You hear footsteps above someone in the rigging, adjusting a line. A gull cries once in the distance, then vanishes into the cloud. And just like that, morning's nearly over. You've stopped glancing at the sky for time. Out here, clocks don't matter, only wind and food and orders. But when the sun reaches its highest point, when shadows crouch flat beneath the rigging and the sails hang hot and still, that's when you know it's midday. The worst part. Not because it's the hardest work, but because there's nothing to do. Nothing at all. The wind dies. The sea hushes. The heat settles like a thick blanket you can't peel away. You sit cross-legged near the stern, back resting against a coiled rope, eyes barely open. A few other sailors are scattered along the deck like pieces of driftwood, each trying to stay still enough to forget the sweat beating on their necks. Nobody talks. Voices would break the spell. Even the officers have vanished, maybe below deck, maybe in their quarters. The second mate is pacing again, but more slowly now, wiping his brow with a damp cloth and muttering to himself. You envy him his boots? The sun beats down hard. The sails above you sag in lazy arcs, heavy and unmoving. Without wind, the canvas doesn't snap, just droops, like wet laundry left too long. You watch the lines hang slack and still, then glance out over the rail. The sea stretches in every direction, smooth and glittering like a great bowl of glass. No whitecaps, no waves. Just the slow heave of water beneath you, lifting the ship a few inches, then letting it fall again with a sigh. The whole world feels like it's holding its breath. You squint toward the horizon. There's nothing there. No land, no ships, no birds. Sometimes you think you see something, just a dark line maybe, or a shape of it. It's always a trick of the light. You blink, look again, and it's gone. The horizon is cruel like that. It plays games with your eyes, offering ghosts and promises it doesn't keep. Some men say the sea talks when it's quiet, that if you listen hard enough, you can hear it whisper. You try, just for a moment. But all you hear is the creaking of ropes, the groan of timber, and the faint scratch of someone sharpening a knife nearby. A fly lands on your arm. You flick it away, returns. You slap at it, then give up. There's no use fighting them. Flies, like everything else, belong to the sea now. You glance at the deck beside you and notice a crust of biscuits someone dropped earlier, now crumbling into dust under the heat. A trail of ants marches toward it. How they got aboard, you'll never know. But they're here. Just like the rats. It's just like the lice. Just like you. The sweat trickles down your back, soaking the band of your trousers. Your shirt sticks to your chest, stiff with salt. You reach up and wipe your forehead, then taste the salt on your fingers. It's everywhere on your skin, your clothes, your lips. Even the air tastes like it, like the ocean has crept inside you and refuses to leave. You haven't been dry in days, weeks maybe. You've stopped keeping track. Someone sighs nearby, long and deep. You turn your head and see a man leaning over the rail, mouth slightly open, eyes glassy with heat. He's not seasick, just tired. Tired in a way that sleep doesn't touch. You know that look? You've worn it yourself. A kind of soft despair, the kind that doesn't panic or scream, just settles in your chest and waits. Time crawls at midday. The sun seems to stop moving. Ship doesn't creak as much without wind. The ocean flattens. There's no direction, no speed, no sense of change. Sit there, breathing slowly, counting the sounds around you. The tap of a loose line against a mast. The scrape of someone shifting nearby. The soft splash of something dropped overboard. A peel, maybe, or a piece of cloth. Everything is slow. Everything is heavy. You start to doze, then jerk awake, heart pounding for no reason at all. The crew doesn't talk about the quiet hours, not out loud, but everyone feels them, the weight, the sameness, the way the sky stares at you like it's waiting for something. You try to distract yourself. You hum. You stretch. You roll a coin across your knuckles, if you have one. If not, you carve lines into the deck with a nail, or pick at a splinter in the wood. Anything to stay in your body. You remember a sailor weeks ago? Months. Who said the sea was like a god. Not one of kindness or punishment, but of indifference. One that didn't notice you, didn't care if you prayed, didn't care if you screamed. It just existed. And you existed on top of it for now, till you didn't. You didn't ask what he meant, and he didn't explain. But now, as you stare at the endless gray, you think you understand. The galley door opens with a bang. A boy comes out, carrying a basin of potato skins. He dumps them over the rail, and they scatter in the water, bobbing like pale ghosts. Gulls appear where there were none before. How they knew you don't understand. But they dive and squawk, fighting for scraps, leaving white streaks across the sails. You watch them and feel something like envy. They can leave. At any moment, just lift their wings and disappear. A breeze stirs at last, not much, just enough to make the corner of a sail twitch. You feel it on your face like a damp sigh. Around you, men shift and stand, stretching limbs that have gone numb. The ship gives a little groan and rocks harder. A rope swings loose from its pin. The second mate barks something sharp, and the sailors move to fix it. Just like that, the stillness breaks. You rise, slowly, legs stiff. Your shirt clings to your back. You rub your eyes, then shake your head. The moment has passed. The sea has spoken again. You don't know what it said, but you heard it. Midday is over. The quiet doesn't last. The moment the wind returns, it brings with it the next round of orders. A voice from above, sharp, practiced, disinterested calls for hands to the rigging. You're already on your feet, wiping your palms on your trousers. There's no need to ask what comes next. When the sails flap like flags against their masts, they must be trimmed. When the ship leans with new breath, it must be steered. And when the wind changes, you change with it. Always. The rope waits where it always does. Coiled thick and damp beside the mainmast. You grab your end without needing instruction. Your grip is strong, your feet braced wide against the now shifting deck. The wood beneath you groans again, the planks flexing with each subtle heave. Someone else shouts from the quarterdeck names, perhaps, or positions, and suddenly the deck is alive with motion. Men scrambling to lines, pulling, bracing, tying. Others climb the rigging like spiders, nimble and fast, boots slapping against the ropes as they go. You keep your eyes forward, waiting for the cue. There it is, a whistle, then the cry, pull. You plant your feet, lean back and heave. The rope bites into your palms, rough and sticky with old tar. You feel the strain in your shoulders first, then your back. It's a deep, grinding kind of strength, one you didn't have when you first boarded, but built from repetition. Pull, breathe, pull again. The line tightens. It's the sail above flutters, then catches. The ship groans, shifts, begins to lean forward. The wind has her again. You haul with others, backs bowed like oxen, grunting in rhythm. The line jerks slightly, someone slipped, then corrected. More, 2 more, 2 more. Then a shout from above. Hold, the tension eases. You wrap the rope around its cleat with practiced hands, binding it tight, muscles trembling. For a moment, the deck is still again, just long enough for you to catch your breath. Above you, the sails are full now, billowing with purpose. The ship picks up speed, slicing across the water with a steady rise and fall. You wipe your hands already sticky with pitch and glance down at your palms. The calluses are thick, cracked in places. There's a cut near your thumb from a splinter, but it stopped bleeding hours ago. It'll heal eventually, or it won't. Either way, there's more rope to pull tomorrow. You move to the next task. Another line, another knot. I loop it tight, fingers moving automatically, not needing your eyes. The wind flaps a loose shirt somewhere above someone climbing too fast, too close to the sail. You squint upward, see the shape dart along the yardarm, arms spread wide for balance. He looks like a shadow against the sky, balanced between wind and fall. You wonder if he's afraid, or if fear fades after enough climbs. A shout draws your eyes forward again. One of the boys is struggling with a knot too tight, too tangled. You step in, kneel beside him, and take the rope. Your fingers work slowly, twisting, loosening. He watches you, silent. When the knot gives, you hand it back without a word. He nods once. You nod back. The sun's still high. The wind sharpens, slapping your cheeks like cold hands. It wakes you fully. The lull of midday is gone now, replaced by the shuddering, restless energy of forward motion. The sails strain. The timbers complain. The deck tilts slightly beneath your feet, not enough to stumble, just enough to remind you that you're afloat, not still, never still. You check your work again. The ropes are taut, the knots clean. Someone taps your shoulder, a nod of approval, or perhaps just a prompt to move on. You follow, walking the deck with new alertness. Everything hums now, alive with wind. You pass the cook's corner again, where a pot of something bubbles unattended. It smells sour, metallic. You don't linger. Another call comes down. Something about the foresail. You move to the rail, grab another line. This one's newer, less frayed, but thicker, harder to grip. You brace yourself again. The sky overhead is streaked with clouds now, moving quickly. The wind has teeth. A few men groan as they pull. One curses under his breath. But you say nothing. You just pull. The sails don't just catch wind. They must be shaped, trimmed, adjusted constantly. The sea changes by the hour, and the ship must respond. There's an art to it, they say. A feel. Some men never learn it. some feel it in their bones. You think you're somewhere in between, still learning, but steady enough not to be a danger. The line jerks in your hands again. The canvas above shudders, flutters, then smooths. The ship leans harder now, cutting across the waves at an angle. You grip the rail instinctively, knees bent, ready to move if the wind shifts again. The second mate barks something behind you, but it's not for you. You keep moving. You think of home briefly, of still ground, of shoes, of trees. Then it's gone. You're back on the deck, wrapped in wind and sweat and rope. There's no bell to tell you it's time to go below. You just know. The way the sun hangs lower in the sky, or the way your stomach starts to grumble again, even though the thought of food doesn't excite you. The wind is holding steady now, the sails trimmed in content. The deck is quiet again except for the occasional snap of canvas or the creak of a loose board. That's your signal. You leave the rail behind, step carefully across the planks, and descend the ladder into the narrow, dark world beneath. The light dims immediately. The air changes too. It's cooler, but not fresher. It's thick, heavy with the smell of wood, sweat, tallow, and bodies that haven't bathed in weeks, maybe longer. The beams overhead are low, and you duck without thinking. The ceiling presses down like a hand. You walk slowly, adjusting to the gloom, eyes scanning the space as you pass crates, barrels, hammocks, buckets, and legs dangling from above. Someone coughs behind a curtain. Someone snores too loudly. Rat scurries across the floor, too fast to catch. Your chore today is in the hold. You knew it before the words were spoken. There's a rhythm to the duty roster, just like everything else. You grab a lantern, strike the flint with practiced ease, and descend another ladder. This one, slick with condensation. The hold is darker still, and colder. The smell here is deeper, more ancient. Salt, rot, dust, and sour grains. You hold the light in front of you and pick your way between the stacks of cargo, watching your step. The floor isn't flat at bows and heaves like the ship itself is breathing. You crouch beside a barrel marked with a crude X, maybe flour, maybe mealand. Check the ropes holding it in place, still firm. The knots haven't loosened in the rocking. Tug one experimentally, and it resists. Satisfied, you move on to the next. Then the next. You circle slowly through the gloom, inspecting barrels and sacks for mold, for leaks, for rats. One sack of oats has a hole chewed in the bottom. You sigh. Knot it shut and mark it with chalk. You pause for a moment to adjust your shirt. It sticks to your back with sweat again. Even in the cold, your body leaks salt. You take a deep breath, but regret it. The air tastes like old wood and dust. You can almost chew it. There's a knocking sound behind you. Wood on wood. You swing your lantern toward it, heart skipping once. But it's just a barrel shifting with the swell. You steady it, then give it a reassuring pat, like it's a living thing.
Out here, sometimes it feels like everything is... There's one more task.
Maybe. The bilge. You put it off as long as you can, but you know you'll have to do it. The lowest place in the ship, where the water collects, rainwater, seawater, sweat, spillage, the leak from a cracked barrel of salted meat, it all ends up here, in a slow, thick puddle that never seems to dry. You find the pump, grab the long wooden handle, and begin to work. The motion is slow and heavy. It's not just resistance, it's weight. The handle lifts reluctantly, then drops again, dragging your arms with it. With each cycle, you hear the slurp and suck of water being drawn upward through the pipe. It spills out onto the deck above, through a spout leading back to the sea. The smell rises with it, acrid, tangy, rancid. You grit your teeth and keep pumping. Someone above you walks past, their steps muffled by planks. You imagine the world above, sunlight, sails, breeze. It feels like a memory more than a location. Down here it's hard to believe in sky. You wipe your brow again and shift your weight. The pump groans, the water sloshes, a rat squeals and disappears behind a barrel. You count the strokes silently. Not to track time, but just to have something to do, something to measure. 17, 18, 19. Your hands begin to slip. You pause, spit in your palms, then grip the handle tighter. The work goes on. Eventually, the flow slows, but the pipe begins to rattle. That means the bilge is nearly empty for now. You give it 5 more strokes, just to be sure. Then you let the handle rest, leaning it against the wall. Your arms buzz with fatigue. Your knees ache. But it's done. Carry the lantern back up carefully, one step at a time. The stair creaks beneath you. You glance once over your shoulder at the hold. The barrels sleep in neat rows. The sacks slump like tired bodies. You've done your part for today. As you emerge into the middock again, the light blinds you for a moment. The sun has lowered. It casts long slashes of gold across the floorboards. The warmth is soft now, not sharp. You blink against it, breathing deeply, grateful for the stink of tar and salt. It's still better than the bilge. A crewman near the mast waves you over. You nod once and walk toward him, your legs moving slowly, deliberately, like you're waking from a long nap. He hands you a coil of rope and gestures toward the aft rail. You don't ask questions, you just follow. The day isn't done yet. The sun has begun to slip behind the line of the horizon, painting the sky in layers of orange and soot. But supper comes before sunset. That's the way of things here. You hear it before you see it, the dull clank of the ladle against the bottom of the pot. The murmur of resigned footsteps lining up near the galley. No rush, no real anticipation. Just the slow shuffle of men heading toward a meal they already know they won't enjoy. You take your place near the back. The line snakes past coils of rope around a stack of crates beneath the low eaves of the forecastle. The smell meets you halfway oily, briny, and strangely metallic. You breathe through your mouth. It helps, but not much. The man in front of you turns, shrugs, and mutters, "Could be worse." You nod, even though you're not sure it could. The cook stands like a statue behind the bubbling cauldron, face slick with grease and heat. God, he wears a stained apron tied half-heartedly at his waist. No smile, no eye contact. Over and over. Ladle, scoop, plop. One tin bowl after another. The contents are grayish, lumpy, steaming. A stew, in theory. Though what's in it, nobody ever really knows. A few slivers of salt pork, if you're lucky. Bits of hardtack crumbled in, maybe. The rest, you stop wondering after the first week. Your turn comes. You hold out your bowl. The ladle dips, rises, dumps. It hits the metal with a wet splat. The smell rises with it. It's not spoiled. Not quite. But old, flat, and sour in a way that fills your sinuses. You nod your thanks and step away, careful not to spill. The contents are thin more water than meat. A piece of something floats to the surface. Potato, turnip, you prod it with your spoon. It doesn't respond. You find a spot on the deck away from the rest. You're back against a crate that doesn't stink. You settle your bowl in your lap and begin the ritual. Stir, examine, sip, swallow. The taste isn't terrible. It's just absent. Like eating something that forgot what flavor was. You chew slowly, letting each bite linger. Not for pleasure, but for time. To make the moment last. The longer it takes to eat, the less time there is left in the day. Nearby, 2 men argue quietly about whether the meat tonight was fish or fowl. One swears he found a scale. The other claims a feather. Neither offers to prove it. You listen without speaking, smiling faintly into your bowl. It doesn't matter. You'll eat it anyway. Halfway through your meal, you bite down on something solid. You pause, tongue exploring the shape. A bone, maybe, or a bit of gristle. You remove it with care and flick it off the side of the ship. It vanishes before it hits the water. You don't look after it. Just keep chewing. One of the boys gags nearby, the new one who hasn't adjusted yet, covers his mouth and runs to the rail. The others laugh, not cruelly, just tiredly. You remember being that boy? Maybe you still are, on some days. The sea has a way of stripping people down, not all the way. Just enough. You finish the stew. There's a skin forming at the bottom of your bowl, congealed fat swirling in lazy spirals. You tilt it back, drink the rest. It's warm, if nothing else. Your stomach feels fuller now, though not satisfied. You set the bowl down, wipe your hands on your trousers, and lean back against the crate. The light is fading fast. A biscuit is passed around. Not fresh, not new. Probably the same batch from this morning. You accept yours with a nod. It's tougher than before, but the beer softens it slightly. Small beer again, barely stronger than water, but just enough to make the taste of stew fade. You drink slow. The last sip catches a bit of grit in your teeth. You spit it into your palm and flick it away. The air grows cooler. A breeze slips in from the west, bringing with it the sharp tang of open sea. Someone begins to hum again, a tune older than the ship, maybe older than any of you. A few men join in, off-key but steady. You close your eyes, letting the sound blend with the creak of ropes and the hush of waves. This is the best part of the meal, not the food, but the pause afterward. When bellies are quiet, mouths are still, and the sea becomes something gentle again. You lean your head back, feel the last warmth of sun on your face. The wood beneath you creaks softly, as if breathing with you. You glance across the deck. Some men are already curling into their hammocks. Others clean their bowls in silence. The boy who gagged earlier is back now, chewing on his biscuit with stiff resolve. He'll get used to it, or he won't. But he's still here. That counts for something. One of the older sailors tells a story low and slow, like smoke drifting. Something about a storm in the Indies, sails torn like paper, rats fleeing the hold. You listen with half your mind, not really needing to hear every word. It's not the story that matters, but the telling of it. The rhythm. It's a reminder that storms end, even if you're not sure how. You think of other meals, ones with tables and knives and fresh bread. Of your mother's soup, thick with carrots and herbs. Of tavern stews with chunks of beef you didn't have to guess at. The memories drift in like fog, soft-edged, not painful, just far away. You shake your head gently, return to the present. The biscuit is gone. The bowl is empty. The beer is warm. But your limbs are looser now. Your breath slower. You feel for the first time all day something close to peace. It's not a feast. It's not even a meal by any generous standard. But it's enough. It keeps you upright. It keeps you here. And on this ship, that's what food is for. The sky has slipped into its indigo stage, neither fully night nor truly day. A soft hush settles across the ship, broken only by the occasional barked order or the creak of the rigging overhead. You stretch once, slowly, arms reaching above your head until your shoulders crack like branches. The day is over, more or less. Now comes the strange, elusive part. Sleep. You make your way below deck again, ducking under the same beams, stepping over the same boots left carelessly in your path. The lanterns are lit now, small oil flames flickering in their cages, throwing long shadows across the hull. The space hums with low voices, coughs, a snore here and there. You step around a puddle that wasn't there. Earlier condensation, perhaps, or something less innocent. Either way, you avoid it. Your hammock is where you left it, stretched between two beams near the aft side of the lower deck. It sags slightly in the middle, already shaped to your back from weeks of use. It's not a bed, not really. Just a canvas cradle, suspended by rope, narrow enough that if you turn too sharply, you'll fall. But you've learned its rhythm, like it rocks gently with the ship, like a heartbeat made of rope and sea.
8.
You reach up, testing the knots that hold it in place. Still firm, still safe, at least for now. You slip off your boots, though. You keep your trousers and undies yourself into the fabric with practiced caution. One hand grips the edge to steady yourself as your body settles into the curve. The cloth groans slightly but holds. You exhale. Above you, someone mutters in his sleep. To your left, a man hums a broken tune, then stops mid-phrase. The deck creaks. A rat scrabbles somewhere behind the barrel stack. You ignore it. The rats always come at night. They're part of the crew now. Welcome, but constant. You tuck your hands into your sleeves, curl your legs slightly, and close your eyes. It's not easy to sleep. Never is. The ship never stops moving. Even on calm nights, there's always a slow rise and fall that rocks your stomach in its cradle. You've gotten used to it mostly. But the sound of it, the relentless groaning of timbers and stretch of ropes, still keeps your mind too alert. Right. You try to focus on the hammock instead, on the gentle pressure against your back, the tight pull of canvas beneath your knees. Sometimes that helps. You think of home, not because you want to, but because there's little else to think about in the dark. A warm bed, roof that doesn't leak, silence that doesn't feel so full. You remember the way the floor never moved, the way the walls stayed in place. You didn't know how strange that was until you came here. A gust of wind rattles the hatch above, and the whole ship groans in reply. You open your eyes again, Someone down the row is having a nightmare? He kicks once, hits the floor with a thud, curses softly, then climbs back up, muttering. Nobody laughs. It happens to everyone eventually. Your nose itches. You scratch it with one knuckle, then pull the collar of your shirt higher to keep warm. It smells of salt and old sweat, but it's better than nothing. The nights are colder than they should be. You feel it in your joints, in the soles of your feet. You breathe out slowly, trying to match the swing of the hammock with your breath. Inhale when it rises, exhale when it falls. Someone nearby is whispering, can't make out the words. A prayer, maybe. Or a letter recited from memory. It doesn't matter. The tone is soft, and it blends with the creaking wood. You let it wash over you. You're not alone here. Not really. Dozens of men packed into the same belly, breathing the same air, dreaming the same sea. That kind of closeness can feel like comfort or like a cage, depending on the night. Tonight it feels ... neither. Just a fact. Just another part of the ship. Your eyelids start to droop, heavier now. Tiredness is finally catching up. The ache in your arms is fading into a dull throb. Your legs twitch once, then go still. The rat scurries again, closer this time. But you're too tired to care. You listen for the bell, but it hasn't rung yet. No change of watch, no alarm. That's good. It means the ship is steady, the crew unbothered. It means you might actually get a full hour or two. Maybe 3, if you're lucky. You shift once more in the hammock, finding a better angle. The canvas hugs you like a cocoon. The rocking continues. Your breath slows. Someone snores. Someone coughs. A rope creaks like a door in the distance. Your thoughts wander soft and disjointed. You see fields that don't exist anymore. A river you haven't touched in years. It's the face of someone whose name you've nearly forgotten. The sea swallows them all. Then nothing. You drift, and the ship drifts with you. You don't know how long you've been asleep when the call comes. Just that it's too soon. Always too soon. The sound of boots on wood, a whisper beside your ear, the low murmur of your name, then you're half awake. Half tangled in your hammock, already sighing before your eyes even open. It's your turn. The middle watch. It's the darkest part of the night. When time slows and the world forgets to breathe, you swing your legs over the side, boots waiting just where you left them. You slip them on without lacing, no point. Not for a shift like this. The floor is colder now, the wood damp with dew or condensation. You can see your breath in the lantern light, just barely. Around you, hammocks still sway with the rest of the sleeping crew. A few snore. One coughs in his sleep, another mutters something about bread. You say nothing. You just move. The climb up to the deck is slower this time. Your joints protest. Your mind still clings to fragments of dreams, something about a warm kitchen or a fire crackling in stone. The moment you break through the hatch, though, it's all swept away. The cold hits you like a slap. It's not bitter, not sharp, but it's constant, damp, and steady, clinging to your clothes, your breath, your skin. The wind is quieter than earlier, but it still sings softly in the rigging. The deck is dark. Lanterns here are dimmed, hooded, so the light doesn't ruin your night eyes. Everything looks blue and gray, like it's been washed in ink. You blink a few times, then step onto the planks, adjusting your stance to the ship's subtle sway. The sails loom above like sleeping ghosts, half full of wind, barely moving. The ropes creak gently, their voices ancient and low. You report to the officer on duty with a simple nod. He barely glances at you, just jerks his head toward the starboard rail. You know the drill. You walk slowly toward it, hands in your sleeves, shoulders hunched against the wind. The stars are out tonight, clear and cold, scattered across the sky like spilled salt. Glance up as you walk. You've learned to name a few. Orion, Cassiopeia, the North Star. The rest you just recognize by pattern. You take your place near the rail and begin your watch. It's not complicated. You listen, you look, you stay awake. You are one set of eyes among many, tasked with spotting anything unusual. Sails on the horizon, sudden change in the wind, fire where there shouldn't be fire. You've never seen anything like that. Most nights, it's just ocean and sky. Still you keep watch. The ship groans beneath you. The timbers shift. The hull flexes. It always sounds like it's about to fall apart, but it never does. The deck is slick with mist. You lean forward slightly, resting your arms on the cold railing. Below, the water is black and endless. No lights, no movement. Just the occasional glint where starlight catches the waves. You think about what would happen if you fell overboard, not in a frightened way, just ... curiously. You imagine the splash, the brief struggle, the silence, how quickly the ship would vanish into the dark, how no one would hear you, how the sea would wrap around you like a heavy coat. You blink the thought away and adjust your footing. One of your boots has a crack in the sole. You feel the cold seeping in. Behind you, someone yawns loudly. Another man coughs into a sleeve. The watch crew is thin tonight, as always. It's just enough to keep the ship from going blind. No one speaks unless they have to. Voices carry too far in the dark. You hear footsteps pacing slowly above, a figure in silhouette against the rigging. Probably the lookout. He won't say much either. You keep your eyes on the horizon. There's not much to see. The stars meet the sea in a seamless curve, like the world has been folded in on itself. No birds, no flashes of lanterns in the distance. It's just the soft, rhythmic hush of waves against the hull. It would be peaceful if you weren't so tired. You rub your hands together for warmth. The gloves you were issued are long gone taken by the wind or left behind after a particularly damp shift. You've learned to manage, flexing your fingers, tucking them under your arms, blowing into your palms. It helps a little. Mostly, you wait for your body to forget it's cold. Time moves strangely during the middle watch. Minutes stretch thin. Seconds feel sticky. You find yourself counting breaths, steps, the creaks of the mast. 1, 2, 3. Then starting over. It gives your mind something to hold on to. Something that isn't sleep. Some men sing to stay awake. Quiet sea songs, more rhythm than melody. Others chew tobacco or bite their tongues. You just breathe, slow and steady. Inhale when the ship rises, exhale when it falls. You listen to the sails, the water, the distant flap of cloth. You check the horizon again. Still nothing. The same nothing you'll see 20 minutes from now, but you check all the same. Someone passes behind you, their shadow long and slow. A nod. Then they vanish down the stairs. Changing posts, maybe? Or fetching something you don't ask. You just watch. Your thoughts begin to drift again. You picture a bed knot, the hammock, but a real one. Feather-filled. Soft. With a heavy wool blanket and a pillow that doesn't smell of mold. You imagine lying down, stretching out fully, the feel of clean sheets against your skin. You almost smile. Then the bell rings. Once, twice, low and heavy. Not an alarm, it's just the passing of time. You glance toward the quarterdeck. The officer checks his watch, then looks up. He calls softly for the next hand. You're nearly done. You don't celebrate. Just straighten your back. Stretch your arms. Your eyes sting from the wind. Your legs ache from standing. But there's a quiet satisfaction in knowing you did your part. Another hour watched. Another hour survived. As you leave your post, the wind shifts slightly. The sails whisper. The ship leans. You grab the rail to steady yourself, then descend below deck once more. The darkness wraps around you like a blanket this time. You climb into your hammock, boots still on. There's no time to undress. Just sleep now. If it comes, you close your eyes. The ship rocks, and you disappear again. You're not awake when the bell rings. Not truly. You just rise when others rise. Your body remembering the rhythm even before your thoughts catch up. You swing one leg, then the other. Down from the hammock and land on the creaking floorboards with a thud that shivers up your spine. Your mouth is dry. Your back aches from the curve of canvas, and your knees remind you of every hour you've ever stood on this deck. Still, you move. You splash cold water from a bucket over your face, not for cleanliness, really, but to chase the last of sleep from your eyes. The water's brackish and stinks faintly of metal, but it serves its purpose. You blink at your reflection in the dented basin, a pale face, unshaven, sunbitten, older than it should be. You splash again and turn away. You don't need a mirror right now. It's cleaning day. Not that the ship is ever clean, not really. But it must be scraped, swabbed, and beaten into something approaching order. The sea is cruel to wood. Salt eats into it. Dampness swells it. Mold hides in corners, beneath barrels, in cracks you didn't know existed. And so, like every few days, You're handed a stiff brush, a bucket of sand, and orders that don't need repeating. You know what to do. You start with the deck, knees down, hands forward. The brush scrapes in slow circular movements, the sand grinding into the wood like dry soap. Your fingers sting with splinters and old rope burns, but you keep at it. Across from you, another man is already working. Head down, back curved like a bow. No one speaks. There's nothing to say. Just the rhythmic scrape of bristles against pine. The work warms you, at least. The morning chill begins to lift as the sun rises behind the sails. You pause once to roll your sleeves higher, then return to scrubbing. The boards here are stained black in spot star, or pitch, or dried blood from someone's busted nose during the last storm. Doesn't matter. You scrub anyway. By mid-morning, your arms are shaking from the effort. The sweat gathers at your temples, slides down the bridge of your nose, stings your eyes. You stop to drink just a sip from a shared flask of warm water. Then it's back down again. A few boys are working on the railings, scraping rust off the cannon mounts with metal picks. You watch them briefly, then return to your patch when the deck is done or, more truthfully, declared good enough. You're sent below. Smell hits first. Stale air mixed with mildew and something faintly sour. You descend slowly, brush still in hand, and begin on the beams. Everything sweats down here. The walls drip. The floorboards gleam with oil and grime. Rats scurry away from your approach, bold enough to hiss if you step too close to their nests. You kneel again, this time beside a set of crates that smell like old onions. You scrub the walls in silence, the brush making slow progress against months of salt and human grease. There's a black smear near one of the seams, something rotten maybe, or just the stain of someone's sleeping breath. You scrape it with a knife, then go over it again with sand. Above, you hear a thud. Someone dropped a bucket. No one calls out. You keep working. One of the mates comes by to check the corner doesn't speak, just nods once. That's the closest thing to praise you'll get. You take it. Later comes tar duty. The ropes, the rails, sometimes even the sails all need fresh pitch to keep them from fraying, cracking, or catching flame. You're handed a pot of black sticky sludge and a thick brush that stiffens the moment it touches air. You slather the tar over the ropes that line the port side, watching it soak into the fibers like ink. It smells sharp and hot, sticks to your fingers in ways you'll still feel tomorrow. The tar drips, the ropes glisten. You smear more over a splintered spar and smooth it with a flat stone. Everything you touch turns black, your arms, your wrists, the cuff of your shirt. You try to wipe your hands, but it only spreads. That's how it is. Tar is generous. It shares. Someone near the stern is working the block pulleys with grease and cloth, their knuckles brown with oil. Another sailor's boiling pitch over a small fire, feeding it gently with slivers of dried pine. You see his face bathed in golden glow, sweat pouring down his nose, eyes narrowed against the smoke. He doesn't look up. Neither do you. By now the sun is overhead. You've been working since dawn, and the light bleeds down through the sails like thin milk. Your stomach growls, but no one stops for lunch during maintenance. You might get a biscuit later. Maybe. For now, it's tar and sand and splinters. The final chore is rope splicing. You sit cross-legged beside a broken coil, taking up a frayed end in both hands. You strip the fibers gently, twisting the new cord around the old, looping and tucking it with patient, practiced fingers. You've done this 100 times, maybe more. It's quiet work. You like it more than the scrubbing? The rope grows whole again under your hands. It's still worn, still damp, still stiff with salt, but it'll hold. That's all that matters. Nothing here is perfect. It just has to hold. You finish the splice, knot it, and test the tension. It holds. You smile faintly. A small victory. The kind only you will notice. Someone calls out from above. Time to shift again. You wipe your hands, though it does little good. The tar remains. The sweat dries on your neck. Your back sinks with dull pain. You stand, legs stiff, and stretch toward the dim light. Another day of keeping the ship alive, wood by wood, rope by rope, breath by breath. The workday never really ends at sea, but the pace eventually slows. That's when the officers inspect the deck boots tapping along the timbers, eyes scanning for things out of place. A rope uncoiled, a tar smear left sloppily, man standing when he should be swabbing. The crew straightens without being told. Everyone knows what happens if the rules are ignored. Discipline on board is not a theory. It is wood, rope, sweat, and spectacle. You're not in trouble. Not today. But someone is. The air shifts when it happens, like a cold breeze that sneaks in from nowhere. The officers gather, quiet and formal. A few words are spoken, barely above whispers. The crew is called to attention, not with a shout, but with a silence that grows until all movement stops. A name is said. A charge is read. Neglecting the watch, stealing hardtack, disrespecting an officer. Always something. Today, it's insolent spoken words, said too loud, said at the wrong time. You don't know the details, but you can guess. Maybe it was frustration. Maybe it was a joke taken poorly. Or maybe the sailor just snapped. Everyone does, eventually. The difference is whether anyone's watching when you do. Punishment is flogging. It usually is. You've seen it enough times to know how it goes. The man is tied to the mainmast, arms stretched wide, shirt ripped or pulled aside. The bosun steps forward, cat o' nine tails in hand. The lashes are knotted, stained dark from long use. It's not personal, it's just the articles. The articles of war, those rules you swore to follow, even if you didn't read them. They hang nailed in the mess, yellowed and curling at the edges. No man shall disobey the lawful command of a superior officer. No man shall be drunk on duty. No man shall strike another aboard ship. There are many. Some are vague. Others terrifyingly specific. All are final. You watch the first strike. You always do, even if your stomach twists. The whip whistles through the air, lands with a sound that isn't quite a crack. Not quite a slap. Something wetter. The man jerks, but he doesn't scream. Not yet. He grits his teeth, back arching as the second blow lands. Blood blooms like a slow flower beneath his shoulder blade. You don't count the lashes, though someone always does. 10, 15, 20. It depends on the crime and the mood of the officers. Sometimes the bosun is merciful, sometimes he's not. You never know. The worst part isn't the pain, it's the quiet. The silence of a man trying not to cry out, the crew pretending not to wince. You shift your weight from foot to foot, fingers clenched at your sides. You're not angry, not really, just tired. Tired of rules written by men who don't have to feel the rope. When it's over, the man is cut down. He's not helped, not at first. That's part of the lesson. He stumbles, knees hit the deck. One tosses a bucket of water. He flinches. Eventually, he's carried away by two shipmates' arms over shoulders, feet dragging like rope ends, as the officers disperse. No words spoken, no lectures given. The mast remains stained. It always is. You return to your task. It feels colder now, even though the sun still shines. The world feels thinner, smaller, like the ship has shrunk somehow. Later that night, in the dim of the lower deck, the whispers begin. Quiet voices trading theories. He didn't mean it. They were just looking for someone to make an example. The bosun's in a mood. But no one says these things loudly, not even in the dark. You lie in your hammock, listening, thinking, remembering the sting of the whip, not on your back, but in your dreams. You've imagined it before, how you'd hold still, how you wouldn't cry out. But you don't know. Not really. There are other punishments too. Running the gauntlet where a man is made to walk the length of the deck, while every sailor strikes him with a rope or stick. Or keel hauling, though that's rare. More legend than practice. Still, the fear of it lingers, like the smell of pitch. You've heard stories of men pulled under, scraped against barnacle-encrusted holes until their flesh was torn like parchment, of lungs filled with seawater and silence. And then there's marooning, the worst of all. Left alone on a rock or a spit of sand, with a bottle of water and a pistol. No one ever says it happened here, but everyone knows someone who knows someone. You imagine it, sometimes. What the last day would be like. What you'd do with the bullet. Still, punishment isn't constant, just present, like the creak of the ship, like the wind. A fact, shape in the corner of your vision. You follow the rules. Keep your head down. You speak when spoken to. You work. You endure. That's how you survive. You notice it all at once. Not the way you notice heat or sound or cold, but over time, The smell of the ship becomes something you carry with you. It's dozens layered together like old canvas, soaked deep into the wood, the ropes, your clothes, your skin. It's always there, a silent presence that clings to every breath you take. In the morning, it's salt and tar. A sharpness that bites the nose when the deck is still damp, the ropes glistening with spray. The sails creak above, full of wind and soaked in brine. You smell them when you walk beneath them, when you pull them down for mending, when you press your face to the mast to rest for a moment. Salt, wood, wet hemp. That's the start of it. By midday, sweat joins the mix. Yours, the crew's. It pools beneath armpits, soaks shirt collars, darkens the fabric stretched across bent backs. It's inescapable. Some try to wash it away with seawater, but it never really goes. The salt just settles deeper into the cloth, turning it stiff, turning it sour. The sweat becomes part of you, like your shadow. Even after scrubbing, the smell lingers on your fingers, metallic and human. Below decks, the scent shifts. The air down there is heavy thick with breath, mold, and something vaguely sweet that has no name. It's the smell of men packed too tightly for too long. Of hammocks that haven't dried properly since they were first slung. Of boots that haven't left feet in weeks. The floor weeps dampness. The beams leak pitch. You breathe shallowly, but it doesn't help. You've learned where the worst pockets are. Near the aft barrels, where mold blooms green across the wood. Round the mess bench, where a bucket of fish guts once spilled and never quite stopped stinking. And worst of all, by the bilge. The very bottom. Where the ship collects everything it wants to. Forget rotten water, oil, rat droppings, brine, urine. They were sent there once. Just once. You climbed down the hatch, stepped into ankle-high sludge, and understood why some men go pale at the mention of it. Even the tools have their own scent. The brushes smell like dried seawater and sour hemp. The tar pots reek of burnt pitch, thick and acrid. Ropes carry the sharpness of salt and the faint moldiness of wet grass. You find comfort in some of these smells now. Familiarity, recognition, the kind of comfort you don't question too deeply. Food brings its own flavor to the air, not freshness, never that, but grease and sour meat and the burnt edge of something boiled too long. Stew, that leaves a film on the lips. Biscuit crumbs that settle into the cracks between boards, attracting flies and things with more legs. You can always smell when the cook's working. The scent creeps up the ladders and into the sails, curling into your nose even before the meal bell sounds. The men smell too, each of them different. One carries tobacco in his beard, another reeks of fish oil. Some keep charms, or bits of cloth scented with herbs tied to their wrists or tucked into pockets, though even those fade after a few weeks at sea. You've taken to rubbing pine shavings between your fingers, just to change the air around you for a while. It doesn't last, but it helps. And then there are the sudden smells, the bursts, when a man vomits over the side after a rough wave. When something dies in the hold and no one finds it for a day too long, when lightning strikes close and the air itself turns to metal and smoke, those smells hit like slaps, sharp and inescapable. You breathe them in, whether you want to or not. You wonder, sometimes, what you smell like to others, whether they wrinkle their noses when you pass, or whether your scent has just merged with the rest of the ship. You've stopped noticing your own body most days. It feels like something borrowed, something the sea's just letting you use for a while. There are small blessings, though. When the wind comes from the right direction, it carries cleaner smells sandalwood from another ship's cargo. It's a faint sweetness of drying seaweed, or just the neutral cold of open water. On rare days, you smell land before you see it: dirt, grass, smoke from unseen fires. That's the kind of smell that breaks men's hearts, or makes them cry into their sleeves when no one's watching. One sailor keeps a rag soaked in lavender, folded into his coat lining. You smell it every time he passes, soft, floral. Entirely wrong for this place. But you don't tell him, you understand? Smell is memory, and memory keeps people alive. You've stopped trying to scrub your shirt clean. There's no point. The scent is woven into it now: salt, sweat, smoke, tar. You wear it like a second skin. It doesn't bother you the way it used to. In fact, when the wind changes and the smell shifts, you miss it. Strange how quickly something awful can become familiar. You think of home sometimes, not just how it looked, but how it smelled. Bread baking. Horse sweat in a stable. Rain on warm dirt. Smoke from your neighbor's chimney. You never knew you could miss a smell until you couldn't find it anymore. But here, on this ship, this floating wooden world, you've learned the truth of things. That smell is as much a part of survival as rope or ration. You breathe it in, you carry it. When you dream, it follows. You know the smell before you reach the sick bay. It leaks out under the door, curling into the lower deck like a warning. Sour, thick, tinged with rot. Not the same as the bilge, not quite, but close enough to set your jaw and slow your steps. The scent of infection and vinegar, blood and piss. The slow, dull rot of a body breaking down. It's not a real bay, not a real room. Just a curtained-off corner near the stern, where the surgeon keeps his tools wrapped in linen and his herbs in mismatched bottles. You've been here before once for a cut on your palm that refused to close, once to help carry a man whose legs swelled purple after a fall. Both times the light was dim, the floor sticky, and the air thick with quiet dread. This is not a place for recovery. It is a place where suffering waits in line. A man moans softly behind the curtain. You don't recognize the voice. Doesn't matter. You nod to the surgeon and keep walking. You're not sick, not today. But your ribs ache. Your back twinges when you twist wrong. You've had salt sores under your arms and blisters that filled with pus, then burst in your shirt. You don't complain. You wash with vinegar and hope for the best. The surgeon is a strange sort of man. Quiet, with quick hands and eyes that don't blink often enough. He doesn't speak unless needed, and even then it's clipped. When he does talk, it's usually to the wound, not the man. He sets broken bones with no ceremony, sews flesh with thick cord, cauterizes cuts with hot iron or powdered resin. You've seen the steam rise from a man's skin. You've seen what comes after, the sweating, the shaking, the silence. There's no anesthesia, of course, just a stick to bite or a belt to grip. Some men scream, others go silent and never speak again. Once you watched a man hold perfectly still as his toe was taken off, jaw clenched, face pale, eyes locked on the ceiling. He died of fever 3 days later. The surgeon never flinched. Tools are cleaned in rum, if rum is to spare. Otherwise, salt water. The knives are rarely sharp enough. The bone saw is stained brown, its teeth uneven. Still, it does its work. Amputations are the last resort, but they're not rare. A crushed hand, or a leg caught in the rigging, gangrene creeping up the flesh like ivy. The surgeon cuts and you try not to look. There are herbal remedies, too. Poultices made from dried moss or bark, pressed into wounds and bound with fraying linen. Sometimes they work, sometimes they fester. The surgeon shrugs either way. He is not a healer. He is a manager of decay. Scurvy is the quiet killer. You've seen the signs: gums bleeding, teeth loosening, purple bruises appearing for no reason. Men move slower, sleep longer, speak less. When the lemons run out, it comes like a ghost, stealing strength from even the strongest. The lucky ones just feel tired. The unlucky bleed from places that shouldn't bleed. No one talks much about death on board, but it happens. A fall from the mast, a slip with the blade. A fever that starts hot and ends cold. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes slow. You've helped carry bodies, wrapped in sailcloth, weighted with iron. You've watched the sea take them, one by one, without a splash. The worst injuries aren't the ones you see, it's the ones inside. The mind cracks in ways the surgeon can't stitch. You've watched men wake screaming, eyes wide, hands reaching for ropes that aren't there. You've heard prayers whispered backwards, songs hummed to no melody. Some men grow silent, others start talking to no one. The sea listens, but it doesn't answer. You once knew a boy 16 maybe who stopped speaking altogether. Just stopped. Wouldn't eat unless told, wouldn't move unless pushed. He sat on the edge of the deck one night and just ... leaned. Quietly, gently. The splash was soft.
Ow.
No one called for help. No one dove after him. The sea gave no answer. The surgeon never mentioned his name again. There are no beds in the sick bay. It's just hammocks strung low, tar-stained cloth laid over crates. Men lie there, staring at the ceiling, sweating, shaking, whispering to themselves. Some recover, others don't. The surgeon checks their pulses with 2 fingers and a squint. If it fades, he nods, that's all. The captain visits rarely. The officers less so. Discipline is their concern. Health is delegated. You wonder if that's for their own comfort or because they know how little can be done. Out here, death is a crew member. Everyone knows it. No one says it. You keep your own remedies tucked in a pouch. A dried root for chewing, a sliver of soap, a scrap of cloth soaked once in wine. Charms, mostly, but they give you something to hold on to. You rub them between your fingers when the pain comes, when the blisters rise, or your head aches from too much sun. It helps, a little. You don't fear sickness the way you used to. It's not because it's less frightening, but because it's more familiar. It's part of the ship now. It's just another current beneath the hull. You can smell it before you see it. Not the salt and seaweed you're used to, but something heavier, earthy, smoky, thick with wood and animals and fire. Land. Real land. Not a rock in the middle of nowhere or a floating dock, but a coastline that stretches out like a sleeping beast. The call comes down from the lookout just after sunrise. Land ho. 2 words that feel like a dream. You're not on deck when the shape of the harbor appears. You're below. Retying a coil of rope, but the murmurs begin to rise around you, passed from man to man like heat. Eyes brighten, spines straighten. Even the sick sit up. You finish your not slower than usual, just to savor the moment. You've waited weeks for this, maybe months. The horizon has always been there, but now it holds something solid. When you finally climb above, the light is golden, soft on the sails. The coast lies ahead, hazy hills, tall trees, the faint suggestion of rooftops. Smoke rises in thin columns. It could be a port you've never seen, or one you've ever visited a dozen times. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it isn't water. And that soon, you'll set foot on something that doesn't move beneath you. You don't know if you'll get shore leave. No one does, until the orders come. Sometimes the captain keeps the crew aboard. Sometimes only half are allowed ashore at once. You've seen men start fights over the right to touch dirt. But today, the whisper says, everyone gets a turn. Whether it's true or not, hope swells in your chest like wind in canvas. Shore leave means everything. It means boots on ground. It means meat with fat still clinging to the bone, beer that hasn't gone sour, a roof that doesn't creak or sway. It means a bedreel, flat, private if you're lucky. For some, it means women, laughter, coin-changing hands in dark corners. For you, maybe it just means quiet and the smell of trees. The preparations begin slowly. The anchor is readied. The sails are lowered with more care than usual. The officers bark orders, but even their tones are different. Less sharp, more hurried. Everyone wants this to go well. Everyone's already thinking of dry ground. You help stow a sail, folding the stiff canvas with aching fingers. Your hands are blistered, but you smile anyway. You don't even notice it until someone points it out. As the ship draws closer, the sounds of the harbor meet you. Gulls screaming over fishmongers, bells tolling from towers, voices shouting in languages you half recognize. The docks bristle with movement crates, hoisted carts, rumbling, sailors coming and going like ants. You can see dogs chasing chickens near the shoreline, smoke curling from open ovens, sails furled and tied down neatly. Civilization. The plank is lowered. You wait your turn. There's always a list. Names called in groups of 5 or 10. You shift your weight from foot to foot, heartbeat ticking faster than usual. When your name is finally called, your legs feel hollow. You step forward, boots thudding on the gangway, and then solid ground. It takes a moment. The ground doesn't sway. The wind smells different. You feel like you might fall over from stillness, but your feet adjust. You begin to walk. The town is loud, but not unpleasant. Voices rise in argument, song, laughter. There's music from a window above a bakery. A girl runs past with a basket of apples. You step aside for a cart piled high with fish, the scent strong, but not unwelcome. You're not sure where to go first. Your coin pouch is thin, but full enough to buy you something hot. You settle for a stew spiced, rich, steaming in a bowl. You're allowed to keep on the table, not cling to in a swaying mess hall. You savor each bite slowly, tasting meat that hasn't been dried or salted beyond recognition. Your throat warms with every spoonful. You sit still. You breathe. Afterward, you walk. not for any purpose, but because you can. Down alleys and streets, past market stalls and temple doors. You run your hand along a stone wall, just to feel something that doesn't give. You watch children chase each other through the square. You listen to a bell tower chime, the hour clean and high and clear. You find a bathhouse. It costs more than you planned, but you don't hesitate. The water is hot, laced with herbs. You scrub yourself with a cloth that doesn't smell of mildew. You soak until your skin wrinkles. You close your eyes and almost fall asleep. No one rushes you. No one calls your name. It is briefly another world. At night, you find a room small, wooden, quiet. The bed has a mattress. There's a blanket. The pillow's flat but real. You stretch out full length and stare at the ceiling. You hear laughter in the streets below, boots on cobbles, the clink of glasses, and then silence. You fall asleep fast. No hammock sway. No groaning timbers. No bell for the night watch. Just a soft dark in the hush of the sea now far behind you. But shore leave ends quickly, always does. You return to the ship the next day, or the day after washed, fed, changed, a little fuller in the face, a little quieter in the eyes. And as the sails rise again, and the dock slips away, you don't feel sad, just ready. The sea waits, and you go. There are days when the sea feels endless blue on blue, sky and water bleeding into one another, the horizon a lie that moves each time you get close. On those days, you stop counting time. You measure the hours instead by bell strikes, the shift of wind, the creak of ropes, the ache in your knees. You forget what month it is. You forget the shape of trees or how it feels to walk across dry grass. You forget the smell of a bakery or the comfort of silence without motion. The sea takes things from you slowly, not all at once. Not with storms or sinkings, though those do happen. No, the real theft is quieter. It starts with names. The name of that boy who joined in Cartagena? The name of your cousin's wife. Then its face, havers, blurred at the edges, half remembered in dreams. Then it's the weight of your own footsteps on land. One morning you wake up and realize you haven't thought of home in 3 weeks. That's how the sea works. It unknots the ropes that bind you to the world above. It takes your body too, bit by bit. Calluses on your palms never fade. The sun carves lines into your forehead, burns your nose year-round. Your joints crack more than they used to. Your back aches in the morning, and you don't remember when it started. Your teeth feel looser. You sometimes dream of eating apples crisp, fresh and wake with your tongue pressed against gums that feel sore. You've grown used to pain, but you no longer remember what it's like to be without it. But the sea also gives. Not often, not loudly, not all at once, but it gives. You've learned the rhythm of the wind, the weight of silence, the song of ropes against the mast in a storm. You've learned to watch the clouds and read the water. You know when rain is coming by the way the gulls circle or how the deck hums just before a squall. You understand how to work with others without speaking, how to trust a man by how he ties a knot or keeps his balance during a sharp turn. There is clarity here in this floating world. No pretense, no games. You are what you do. If you mend the sails, you are the sailmaker. If you haul lines, you are the crew. If you fail, someone else suffers. There's honesty in that. Brutal, maybe, but clean. The sea does not care for lies. Strips you bare, but it leaves the core untouched. You've seen things few men ever will. Dolphins leaping beside the bow under moonlight, the water lit silver like a mirror. You've watched lightning strike so close it left the air humming for minutes after. You've seen sunrises that painted the sky in every color you don't know the names of. You've seen stars you thought only lived in stories. And in those moments you felt small, yes, but also wide open, like your ribs had been turned to sails. You remember one night in particular, windless, the sea flat as glass. The ship didn't move for hours. No one spoke above a whisper. Even the sails hung limp. You sat on the edge of the deck, legs dangling over the water, and looked down. The moon was so bright, you could see your reflection in the sea's surface. And for a moment, it was as if the ship floated between two skies, above and below, both endless. You've seen death here too, but not always with fear. Sometimes it comes gently. A man closes his eyes and doesn't open them again. Sometimes it's a fall, quick, with a splash. Sometimes it's slow or a fever that burns all the words out of a man before it takes his breath. You've made peace with it, in a way. Not because you want it, but because you know it. Like an old neighbor. Always there. When you joined this ship, you thought the sea would make you strong, and maybe it has. But not in the way you expected. Not muscles or pride, but endurance. A kind of quiet, settled hardness that doesn't need to prove anything. You still feel fear, but it no longer rules you. You still feel pain, but it doesn't stop you. You do what needs doing, and when it's done, you rest. You don't know how long you'll stay out here. Maybe another year, maybe a decade, maybe longer. Maybe not by choice, but you do know this. The sea is part of you now. Even if you walk away, some part of your breath will always carry its salt. Some part of your heart will still feel the pull of tides. One day if you return home, they'll ask what it was like, and you won't have the right words. You'll shrug. You'll say hard, or long, or strange. But you won't say how the wind tastes, how silence feels. How it is to fall asleep, knowing the world beneath you moves, because that's the secret. What the sea takes, it also leaves behind in a different shape. Not as memory, but as marrow. And you, sailor, are shaped by both. You lie still now, hammock swaying, the creak of the timbers fading into the hush between waves. Above you, the lantern flickers low, casting warm shadows that shift like sails in slow motion. The sea hums a lullaby through the hull, steady and soft, like a heartbeat you've known your whole life without ever hearing it clearly until now. Your body is heavy, but in a good wail, like a rope coiled and stowed, like boots after a long day ashore. The salt still clings to your skin, the wind to your hair, but it's become part of you. No different than breath or sleep, or the steady rhythm of your own thoughts drifting out like tidewater. You don't need to move. You don't need to speak. The world outside the ship, the world before the voyage, it feels distant, faded, like a map left too long in the sun. And yet somewhere deep in your bones, you know it's still there. The trees. The stones, the fields that don't pitch beneath your feet. Maybe you'll return to them one day. Maybe not. But tonight you are exactly where you are meant to be, adrift. Not in loneliness, but in peace. There's no rush, no bells, no orders, no storms to outrun. Just the soft hush of water, the breath of canvas, the slow folding of one thought into the next. You close your eyes. You let it all go. The sea is quiet now. The ship rocks gently. Somewhere far above, the stars blink softly. The candles burn low. Thank you for sailing with me tonight, friend. Sleep well. Sweet dreams.